Hello and welcome to another edition of the Blood Red Morning Bulletin. My name is Emmet Gates and today I'm joined by my fellow Liverpool.com colleague Andrew Beasley. And Andrew, it feels a bit weird at the moment, obviously because there's no World Cup games. We're in that awkward 2 or 3 day break, which kind of means we've nothing really to talk about because there's no club season either. But obviously, if you scan around on the internet, you're always going to find, Liverpool and Jude Bellingham stories. And we feel like, me and you've talked before, and we both feel like this story, this saga even, is going to run on and on and on and on. And, the links just keep on, coming. Obviously, Liverpool have targeted him for, it feels like years at this point. And now there's obviously interest from Real Madrid, PSG, Manchester City, and Manchester United. Where do you think Liverpool realistically stand in the Bellingham race? Obviously, he is a realistic target in the sense that he's young and Liverpool are still one of the best teams in the world, despite the patchy start to this season. But do you feel like Liverpool realistically have a shot at Bellingham, or do you feel like it's just slightly out of reach?
No, I think they have a realistic shot. I mean, I think it's quite hard to sort of put the clubs in order of preference. He doesn't sort of come across as a player who would just chase the money for the sake of it. He's in a position where he can make a massive move at the age of 20. And if he moves again at, 25, he'll get another huge contract somewhere else. So, the likes of Paris Saint Germain, I can't really see him going there. I'm not really sure really what he would get out of that at this stage of his career. So I think Liverpool are in a pretty good position. I mean, obviously everything that you see from the England camp, he seems close with Trent Alexander-Arnold and Jordan Henderson. I mean, obviously that doesn't mean he's going to join Liverpool by any means, but I'm sure they're all talking about it. So him getting on with them, probably helps. Jurgen Klopp being the manager probably helps. I'm sure he looks at him as somebody he can learn a lot from. Now, obviously, Manchester City can offer an incredible manager as well. So that's not necessarily an advantage for Liverpool, but it's just another sort of tick in their favour. So it's hard to call Liverpool favourites, I think, because the amount of money involved perhaps put them further down the likelihood than maybe Real Madrid, Manchester City for the transfer fee and stuff like that. But if you look at all the other aspects of the deal, ignoring the transfer fee as much as you can, I think Liverpool have got as good a chance as anybody, at least.
Yeah, I mean, that you make a very good point there. I mean, if you leave literally everything outside of football, if you took that out of the equation, finances, transfer fee, wages, from Bellingham's point of view, he would probably look at Liverpool's midfield and go, well, I can go in there and make a huge difference to that midfield. Whereas if he goes into, PSG or Man City, his impact's not going to be, as great. It's just another layer of gold on the Bentley, as Zinedine Zidane said about David Beckham joining Real Madrid, 20 years ago. Whereas if he goes to Liverpool, from a football perspective, he can make a huge difference because obviously we all know Liverpool's midfield does need rejuvenating. But unfortunately, that's where he would make the biggest impact. But as you said, that's not the world we live in. Finances will play a huge role. And, maybe, Liverpool could also work that, the favourable angle with Borussia Dortmund and the Jurgen Klopp connection. And one of Borussia Dortmund's managing directors actually came out, I think, was it last week or the week before, and said that his preference would be to basically sell Bellingham, to Liverpool should the money be right. But I think from Liverpool's perspective, it's all about getting that offer right. And Bellingham doing so well at the World Cup really isn't doing Liverpool any favours in that regard.
No, I mean, performance in a World Cup does tend to add value to a transfer fee, and obviously he was fantastic against Senegal last time out. Even bigger game coming on Saturday, of course, against France, and how he does there is, could have an impact on things. Maybe he'll be up against Tchouaméni as well, so it could be sort of the guy Liverpool wanted last summer against the guy they want this summer or whatever. We'll have to see how that plays out, but. Just to go back to what you said, I mean, they do seem willing to sell to Liverpool. And I think the important thing to remember for Liverpool is that they don't have to put in necessarily the biggest offer, just one that Dortmund will accept, and clearly that's still going to be a very big offer, don't get me wrong, but they don't have to blow every other team out of the water financially necessarily, just put in an acceptable offer, and if the player's willing, then hopefully it'll come through. But keep seeing all these updates about it being closer and closer and closer, and I understand why, because there is a bit of a void, as you say, no sort of World Cup, no football for a couple of days, have to fill it. But these transfer rumours are just sort of dragging on, and as much as it's news is suggesting that it's close, I'm still far from convinced anything will happen in January, as nice as that would be. But I think this is still one that will drag on until the summer, and we'll have to see what happens then.
Yeah, I mean, I'm like you. I'm a bit skeptical. I don't believe that it's going to be anywhere close to wrapped up by January. I think this will be a summer deal, and it will be a saga. I think by the end, it'll drag on and on and on. But a new link, shall we say, for a player that Liverpool haven't been linked with previously, has been Fiorentina's Sofyan Amrabat, who has been excellent at this World Cup. What have you thought of his performances, and what do you think of the links in general? Do you know much about Amrabat, or what are your general feelings about this fresh link, shall we say?
I didn't really know about him before the World Cup. It was quite funny because on Tuesday I was actually writing an article for the Echo about him because of this link, just sort of taking a look at what his strengths are and things like that. And the way that the day worked out for me, I was literally writing it while he was playing against Spain in the World Cup. So the article took far longer than it should have, because obviously I was watching him thinking, well, if he does something good here, that's something for the article. But he has been very, very impressive. I mean, the Spain game was a great example, because they were obviously going to have very little possession. Morocco, I think it was 23%, something like that. And he just always seemed to be in the right place at the right time, particularly in the first half, which I was watching a little more closely. He was just always there. I think he blocked a couple of shots. I think Spain may have been offside both times, but obviously the players don't know that when it's going on. And he was in the right place to sort of block those shots. He won a few fouls, just sort of protecting the ball and buying a bit of territory and a bit of a rest for his team and stuff like that. Looking at the numbers, I see he does a lot of progressive passing for Fiorentina. Obviously, there wasn't too many opportunities for that in the Spain game, but he did play a great through ball. Was it in the second half? Was it in extra time? But he played a great through ball. I think their attacker was offside, but the guy ran through, didn't convert the chance anyway. But just a glimpse of his his passing ability and stuff like that. So I've been very impressed. And obviously, he's going to have another big test in the next round when they play Portugal, who looked very impressive against Switzerland the other night. I did expect them to win that, not by 6-1 by any means. So he's going to have a big opportunity there. I mean, I know obviously you know a lot more about Serie A than I do. I think, did I see you tweet that he didn't even get in their team last season or something?
Yeah, I mean, it's a head scratcher, because obviously, as you say, like, I'm a big fan of Serie A, so I'd seen him come through at Hellas Verona, and I remember one game in particular against Juventus, when Juve were still reigning champions, and he dominated Juve's midfield, and this would have been 2019-20. It was just before the pandemic happened, and he was amazing, and Verona beat Juve, if I remember rightly, 2-1 or 2-0. And you kind of think, this kid's got a bright future. And then he joined Fiorentina that summer. And his first season was so-so. And his second season then, when Vincenzo Italiano came in as Fiorentina manager, and he could hardly get a kick. Lucas Torreira, he preferred Alfred Duncan, Giacomo Bonaventura, Andrea Castrovilli, all, were ahead of him in the pecking order. So I think he started 8 games for Fiorentina last season, in all of last season. It's got a bit better this season, where he started a bit more regularly, but he's still not the first choice. And that was always a head scratcher to me, because he's as he's proven for Morocco in this World Cup. He's powerful, dynamic. He's good on the ball. So to me, he would have been one of the first names on the team sheet. And even when Fiorentina didn't sign Torreira permanently, they sent him back to Arsenal. I kind of felt, this would be Amrabat's time, but he only started games leading into the World Cup. Like at the beginning of this season, he didn't really play. And it's been a head scratcher, but I think his performances here have proven what a good dynamic all round footballer he is. And at 27, his contract expires in the summer of 2024. I think either Fiorentina need to renew his deal or cash in when his value is never going to be higher than it is now. So yeah, his time in Florence has been a bit of a head scratcher for me, and I do think if Liverpool were serious about him, I think he would be a good box to box kind of Gini Wijnaldum type player. And he's got the physical strength, which you would say Liverpool's current midfielders don't really have. Would you agree with that, or would you disagree?
Yeah, he looks like he could add quite a lot to the Liverpool midfield straight away. I mean, as I say, I didn't know too much about him, but I mean, you look at his passing stats, and they're sort of pretty similar to Thiago. Seeing that mentioned was sort of what partly prompted the article as well. Like, he's got the passing ability of Thiago, and he looks to have the sort of defensive skills of Fabinho, at least from the little bits and bobs I've seen. I mean, it's probably going a bit far to say he could replace both of them in one go, but what I mean. He looks like he could sort of cover for both in different ways, and I mean that's exactly the kind of player Liverpool need. And obviously, as has been well discussed, they don't really have any peak age midfielders. They've got youngsters and they've got veterans. So adding somebody who's 27 and has shown great form, and it's probably from Liverpool's perspective or his next club's perspective, I mean, it's probably no bad thing he hasn't played that much the last couple of years, prior to this. So, Liverpool's midfielders have got a lot of miles in the legs, and if he's not been used quite so much, even that would add something. So, as you said, he's out of contract in 2024. That immediately makes it seem more plausible than if Liverpool are linked with somebody who's got 5 years on their deal, because they just don't go for guys like that. So, we've got no insider knowledge. Who knows if they are going to move for him? But I think he ticks a lot of the boxes, and he seems like the sort of player on the sort of deal that they will be going for. So it seems plausible from that perspective, I think.
Yeah, and I mean, if Liverpool could manage to sign Bellingham and Amrabat, that would set the midfield up nicely, for the next 5-6 years at least. Obviously, in Bellingham's case, it would be longer. And they would be the type of signings that Liverpool, you imagine, would need to kind of, rejig the midfield and kind of add some vitality into it.
Yeah, well, obviously, if you've got Amrabat, say, holding, and you've got Bellingham, then I mean, it's quite a battle for the third spot in the midfield. I mean, that can only sort of benefit Liverpool if Amrabat and Fabinho are sort of rotating at the base of the midfield, and obviously Bellingham, you would think, starts every week if he comes in, of course, or more or less every week, and then there's a lot of good players competing for maybe one spot. So, as much as it seems like Liverpool need lots of midfielders, excuse me. If they get two that are, if they get two right, then all of a sudden everything looks a lot better in there.
Yeah, I think there's been a lot of talk about Liverpool need 3, 4, 5 midfielders. I think 2, if they got Bellingham plus one other, I think that would set them up nicely. And then obviously you have Harvey Elliott there, Curtis Jones, Thiago, obviously he's getting on, but he can still do a great job. So yeah, I think you're right. I think 2 is all Liverpool need, but they just need to be the right 2. As you pointed out, but Andrew, I think that'll do us for today. Obviously, we'll keep an eye out on the Bellingham story. It'll continue to rumble on for the next few months, so it won't be the last time we'll talk about Bellingham. Thanks everybody for tuning in, and we'll see you all next time.